Good afternoon, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talk's MLB update. I knew what I did with my drink. How's everybody doing today? We are back with a full slate of baseball this week. We'll get into lots of stuff. I mean, the Orioles red hot, taking over first place in the American League East as the Rays continue to stumble. The Yankees all the way into last place. There's no fixing the Yankees. I'm telling you right now, we might as well punt the season, get rid of some contracts and some managers and general managers and start over. The Rangers have righted the ship. It looks like we're going to have some great races in the AL East, the NL Central, the NL West. Rob Manfred, we're going to get into today, gets another, looks like, he'll get a new contract from the owners. What's going on with our internet today? Looks like we got another issue, which I do not understand because I just checked it and we were fine. I apologize, guys, if we're buffering. I just checked the speed and we were all good. Let me check something. So we're going to get into Rob Manfred. Why is he still here? The job requirement should be do what's in the best interest of the fans. And it seems the only job requirement here is to keep money flowing into the owner's pockets. That's the only job requirement that's required here. Just checking my mesh here. We seem to be fine. I don't know why we're buffering a little today. I just did a speed test and all was well. Spectrum, you stink. Okay? Just saying. We'll get into some talk. We'll talk a little bit about Ohtani, what the Angels should do versus what they will do, and get into some other trade possibilities. We'll look at the standings, the schedule as always, some of the news going around, and we'll take your comments and topics as well. Who's with us this afternoon? Dave Guyette's with us. Was with us early. Put a question about what's wrong with the Yankees. We'll get into that, Dave. There you are. What's wrong with the Yankees and Mets again? I'll talk about this quickly before I dive into everything else. What's wrong with the Yankees? Pretty simple. Brian Cashman, Aaron Boone. The years of Brian Cashman putting out the same type of team, being allowed to spend the Steinbrenner's money and spend it foolishly. Trading prospects. It's caught up. There's Dave saying get rid of Boone. I've been saying this for 3 years. Don't make trades. Listen, you're in last place. You're 4 games over 500. Am I right? We got to get into more than this, Dave, but we'll stick with this for the moment. We're 4 games over 500. Sorry, 3 games over 500. Aaron Boone said the other night, we stink. First thing I've agreed with Aaron Boone about in forever. Good to have you watching on YouTube today, Dave. You can certainly watch us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Let's Talk Sports, and of course, TGI Sports Talk. Look, forget about the division. You're 9.5 games out. You're quickly falling out of the wild card race. A solid 4 games behind. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot. But once you get to the postseason, what's going to happen? You've watched this lineup not hit. Sean Casey, doesn't matter who you bring in here. You can bring Joe DiMaggio back from the grave. He's not going to get these guys to hit. They're either going to hit on their own or they're not going to hit. You've seen the last of Josh Donaldson. They moved him to the 60-day DL today, by the way, which really effectively, in my mind, ends his career. If he comes back, he's not going to be prepared to be on the playoff roster, if there is a playoff roster, and he's done. That was a stupid, stupid move. The only plus of that trade was to get rid of Gary Sanchez and his contract. I mean, I don't know what the answers are, guys, because there's so many holes to fill. You can't possibly close them all. Can't. Trying to find out what's wrong with my feed. Dave says, call up the kids from the minor. Well, there's not that many to call up left right now that are ready. They've brought up Volpe, obviously, to start the season. Peraza's up playing third base. Let him continue to play. I'm looking for a taker for Stanton. I'll eat most of his contract. I don't care. I want him out of here. I love Harrison Bader. I think Harrison Bader has to go. I think the Yankees should be sellers here. Somebody will want Stanton's bat. You might be able to get a prospect or two. You're going to have to eat some of his money. I think you can get a decent prospect or two if you eat enough of the contract. Bader, I love Bader, but he can't stay in the field. Trade him. You know, for the Yankees, again, maybe I'll sing a different tune later on when they start to right the ship. I don't see any reason to think they'll right the ship. Rondon is another bad signing. I said this in the offseason. Bad fit. He's flipping fans off. Not at home, fortunately. He's either hurt or he's not going to fit in New York. And I got to tell you, let me turn this off, see if this helps. Oh, I don't know the answer, guys. This team will fool themselves into thinking they should buy because Byron Cashman and Boone want to save their job, so they'll buy. And they should be sellers. Mets, I don't know what the Mets are going to do. The Mets could go either way. I mean, they got pieces they could trade and probably could continue to try to chase a wild card. They could trade Marte. They could trade Kana. What was that? I got stuff crashing around me everywhere. Who else? Peterson. I'm sorry, Robertson. Peterson. Who knows Peterson? Robertson. They got some pieces they could trade and still make a run. Maybe they'll trade one of the big guys. But the Mets, again, that's another case of, unless for some reason Verlander or Scherzer, and Scherzer's pitched well recently, find a fountain of youth, this team's not going anywhere in the playoffs either. Ohtani? You can't trade for Ohtani. If you're the Mets or the Yankees, you can't, because guess what? If you're the Yankees, everything starts with Peraza, Volpe, Dominguez. I'm not trading any of those guys for a guy that's a rental, and I have no guarantee I can sign him or that he'll even be here, or even that he'll make that much of a difference. Now, Ohtani, like getting two players at one, I get that. But you're not giving up. You have to give up your best prospects if you want Ohtani, whether it's for a rental or if you want to sign him long term. So with the Mets, that starts with Alvarez and Viento, if I'm saying his name right, and Batty. So if you're willing to gamble and trade your future, now he's 29 years old. He could have a bunch of years left, but is he going to do both things forever? I don't know. He's surely a great player. With Judge Hurt, he's the best player in the major leagues. But if I'm the Angels, I trade Ohtani. I'm not in the race. Same reason the Yankees should trade. Same reason the Mets should trade. You can make trades and still compete. Yankees did it in 2016. They traded guys. They played better after the trades and pushed a little bit for a wild card. Just because you sell doesn't mean you can't compete. And if I'm the Angels, who again, if I make the playoffs, I'm 4 or 5 games behind in the wild card race. I did just sweep the Yankees, which gives me some hope. But how much? How good are the Yankees that you just beat? With Trout out another 6 weeks. If I'm the Angels, I trade Ohtani now. I can still go after him in free agency. He's going to hit the open market anyway. I don't know why teams don't do this. I'm a little ahead of myself where I plan to be in this show, but that's fine. I don't know why teams don't do this. If I've got a pending free agent, I can't sign him while I've got exclusive negotiating rights, let's say. If I know he's hitting the open market, I might as well trade him. Get some blue chip prospects, and then go try to sign him in the offseason. The Rangers should have done that with Martin Perez last year. I can think of a dozen times teams should have done this. But they don't do it. And getting Ohtani, remember, is different than getting Soto last year. The Padres had 2.5 years left on Soto's contract. Here you got 2 months. Much different. Augustin. Well, we're having some issues, aren't we? Oops, I got the wrong thing. That's fine. Never mind. Maybe we aren't. San Francisco Giant fan, Augustin, good to have you with us. Giants should be in play for Ohtani. They were willing to spend big money last year on Judge or Correa. Both deals fell through for them. They're willing to spend. Do not count the San Francisco Giants out of the Ohtani stakes. Whether they want to give up prospects now and chase the division title and an NL championship and maybe a World Series is a different question. Whether they have the pieces it's going to take to get him in a trade is a different question. But they'll be in play for him to sign long-term, guaranteed. So watch out. Rangers are talked about with Ohtani as possibly willing to give up 5 of their best 10 prospects. I think it's nuts. But the Rangers are playing good baseball. Rangers have their eyes set on a potential. Again, the window's not always that big. And now I'm going back on what I said about the Rangers not being ready to win. Maybe they are. Maybe they're closer than I thought. But going after Ohtani's different than going after DeGrom. Ohtani's a freak of nature, man. He's going to turn whatever team he turns. Well, again, he hasn't played on a winner. I get that. Assuming he gets to a contender who's a better team than the Angels, he's going to be a difference maker. It's just a matter of whether you want to rent him for 2 months and then take your chances. Well, because of the Steinbrenners and because of their seeming of fear of firing these 2 guys, I would not be surprised if they're back, Dave. They should not be back. There's no place for them to hide. They blamed Dylan Lawson and fired him, now, and not with no reasoning, but firing him was to give themselves some cover, bringing in Sean Casey and hoping that people would get some of these guys bats would get hot. But they're going to wear a hide now. This is all on them. This is why they won't sell. This is why they will buy, probably make some stupid decisions, bring in Salvador Perez, who's a nice catcher, but catcher's not our issue. Probably bring in a pitcher that'll break down. How's Mantow doing? Last I heard, last I heard, I hadn't heard. You've seen what we gotten out of Rondon in 4 months. But they're probably going to go all in because their jobs are on the line. Yankees miss the playoffs. I think there's a good chance Boone and Cashman get fired. So root for that, Dave. I hate to root for my team to lose. I shouldn't say that. Never done that. But it might be the only way to get rid of these 2 guys. Well, listen, this is, and again, Dave, this is a bit of revisionist history too, by the way. You're right. If George was alive, Cashman and Boone would be gone by now. But don't forget, Cashman was allowed to go on for 10 years while the boss was alive. $10 yeah. Without winning a World Series. Win one World Series. One. Continue to put together flawed teams. Chase the A-Rods of the world instead of fundamentally sound players in chemistry. But again, look at George would have made the moves, but George, listen, everybody thinks George made everything all right. George was a big problem for the Yankees for a long time. People don't like to admit it. Since he died, there's been this revisionist history about George Steinbrenner that he's the best thing that ever happened to the Yankees. Well, a lot of bad things happened with George. Yeah, he revived them in the 70s. They were already on their way back in the 70s, by the way, before he bought the team or when he bought the team. They had a good team in 74. He brought in Gabe Paul, who made some good trades, and they won in 77, 78. But don't forget the 80s, which were abysmal. Don't forget the 90s, which were abysmal. No championships, no division titles until 96. Yankees didn't get good again until George was suspended, and Gene Michael and Buck Showalter were allowed to rebuild the mess that George had made. So again, are you right, Dave? Yes. These guys would have been gone long ago. But would George have made everything all right? No, he would not. Don't delude yourself into thinking, that George was this saintly guy who wouldn't stand for losing and made everything better. He made it worse more often than he made it better. Anyway, I apologize if we've got some bad connection again. I hope we don't. I don't know why that was happening. I tested the damn speed just before I went on. Anyway, we'll get into more stuff like that. I want to talk about, let's talk about Rob Manfred for a second. We're going to get into the standings and whatnot, but the other big news of the day, besides the trading deadline coming up, we'll talk more about that, obviously, the rest of this show and next week, and on a Sunday stream of consciousness. So you'll hear about it a lot. Ohtani's going to be the big story, and the fact that there's so many buyers are going to be a big story as well. The other piece of big news I want to chat about is Rob Manfred is going to be back as commissioner. And I say, why? What is the job requirement? What's the job description of the commissioner? Should be to do things in the best interest of the fans. But that doesn't seem to be it. Rob Manfred is doing a great job because he's fulfilling one job requirement, and that's filling the pockets of the owners. More merchandise to sell by selling out the All-Star game for these silly pajama-like uniforms they wear. What has he done? Is baseball back offensively because of these rules that everybody seems to love that he helped put in? No. I like the pace of play being faster. I do. Could have fixed it without the pitch clock. And by the way, there's a story brewing that we're going to change the pitch clock for the playoffs. If any Yankee fans are actually watching the playoffs. Great. And I'll get into it in a second. I don't want to get myself all kind of stream of consciousness into it right now. But tell me why Rob Manfred should be kept. Should Rob Manfred be kept because of the great job he did during the COVID season? Horrendous job during the COVID season, putting in these stupid rules that are still plaguing us. The runner on second base, we were promised it would go away to start extra innings. Still here. Diametrically tase the game after you play 9 innings. Stupid rule. 7-inning doubleheaders. And then when a guy pitches a no-hitter for 7 innings, We don't give him credit for a no-hitter. You didn't allow him to pitch the extra 2 innings, but we won't give you credit for that. So expanding the playoffs, we should thank him for that. All that did was put more money in the owners' pockets. He wants to expand by 2 teams. That'll put more money in the owners' pockets when teams or cities have to pay money to have a new expansion team. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. At the expense of quality. We already have bad quality baseball because there's not enough quality starters, there's not enough quality relievers, there's not enough quality bench guys to feed 30 teams, much less 32. And you've got cities that don't support their teams, like Oakland, what's been taken care of. Tampa Bay. All they do is win, compete every year, they don't draw. You don't want to go watch your team win? Then move them. I understand it's a shitty stadium. Excuse my French. So has he done a good job there? No. New rules that are nonsense. We're harassing pitchers. More rules to help the offense and hurt the pitchers. We harass the pitchers and we give them a strip search every freaking inning. Plus, we throw ourselves into political battles. There was no reason to move the All-Star game out of Atlanta last year. None. Don't involve yourself in political nonsense that only hurts the product. People go to the ballpark. People aren't watching on TV. The All-Star game had the worst rating ever in the history of the All-Star game. Nobody watches the World Series. Not nobody, but you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to run down a little bit of Rob Manfred's history. How did he deal with these things? Pace of play. We know what he did with pace of play. It got atrocious until, instead of enforcing the rules already in the rule book, we had to put new rules in. We already talked about that. The Astros cheating scandal. It depends how you look at this, right? I say it's not a big deal anyway. But the way he handled it, he pissed off both sides. COVID, he handled terribly. The fact that the World Series trophy is just a piece of metal. The fact that when we had games canceled because of the lockout. I shouldn't say the strike. Somebody said strike this morning. It was a lockout. And the players were locked out and they canceled games. He's at the podium laughing. Talked about the All-Star game. Ridiculous. Spider tack. Again, every time pitchers look to get any kind of advantage, batters can do whatever they want for safety and for performance. They can use pine tar until their hands will come off the bat. But pitchers use spider tack for both safety and performance. Now we do strip searches every half inning. Because don't give the pitchers a half a chance to be competitive. We won't even talk about the collective bargaining agreement negotiations that continue to break down under him. But he keeps putting money in the owner's pockets, and that's what really matters after all. All the new rules are destroying the game. Yes, I agree. You know, listen, there's a lot of writers out there that I read, broadcasters who love it. Listen, I'll give you the pitch clock has helped pace of play, and it needed to help. I don't need to watch 4-hour games every night. But people are raving about the stolen base numbers being up. Artificially. When you can only throw over to first base twice. Once you've thrown over once, I got a free pass to second base or third base. Plus the baselines are shorter because you made the bases bigger in the name of safety. The shift. Batting averages are up a little bit. Strikeouts are higher than ever. You're hurting players' approach to the game. Because you put in rules that are artificially will help them. So that's like Trying to think of a good analogy. So I've got people at work who can't sell. I lower the prices to help them sell more. Am I really making them better salespeople by just lowering the price of my products? Or should I coach them about how to really approach and close sales? That's what I should do. That's what I do. Don't say do. CA is with us. Hello, CA. Good to have you with us. Guys, if you haven't got in the TGI Sports Talk Fantasy Football, please do so. It's been reposted on the page. I'll do it again this weekend. I think we only got 4 spots left, CA. I haven't looked today. Could be 3 if Tanner got in. Going to be a lot of fun. We'll have some fun with that. CA was kind enough to take care of getting that started up, and we're still tweaking a few of the guidelines. So not baseball related, but we'll throw it out there. You know, I don't know, I get so worked up about frickin' Manfred. God. See what other news are going on. We talked about the A's, or the O's rather, getting red hot, topping the slumping A's. They had tied them before this series started. We'll look at all the series that are getting played this weekend. The Mariners, Jared Kelenic breaks his foot kicking a water cooler. Always smart when a guy hurts himself during an emotional outburst. Kelenic's been struggling a bit. This happened during a loss to the Twins. He'd had a 9-pitch at bat against the closer Duran, including following off several 100-mile-an-hour plus fastballs. But he struck out, kicked the water cooler. Now he's going to be out for quite some time. Seattle can't afford these types of injuries. Their offense already stinks. Athletics put Ryan Noda on the 10-day DL with a broken jaw. Nobody will notice. I mentioned earlier the Yankees transferred Josh Donaldson to the 60-day disabled list in what was kind of a quiet transaction. This likely spells the end of Josh Donaldson's tenure with the Yankees. He wouldn't be eligible to play until September 14th. He would have sat out over 2 months by then, if in fact he was ready then. He'd have to take a minor league rehab assignment, 2 more weeks. He's not going to be, and plus he can't help this team anyway. So happy trails, Josh Donaldson. Mets Starling Marte goes to the IL with migraines. Tommy Pham hurts his groin. Big guy yet. Excuse me. I just dropped my. I just dropped one of my mics. Tommy Pham hurts his groin. Tommy Pham, by the way, is another guy the Mets could easily trade. Would have some value in if they wanted to be sellers, and again, still be able to possibly compete. Because he's a guy who really wants to go. He plays hard all the time. Part of why he's hurt. Starling Marte always hurt. Maybe they won't be able to move these guys off. They're on the DL. Excuse me.
JP France was trying to spin something here.
Picking me off here.
Great job.
We gotta find that. Stop it. Where is it? Where are you? I'll find you, you little bastard. It's probably what's ruining my internet connection. You get videos playing behind some of this stuff. Where was I? Injuries. I don't really want to get into that. What else we got over here on the Atlantic side, or the Athletic side? Donaldson, Kelenic. Phillies recommend Tommy John surgery for Andrew Painter, prospect that they really like. Again, young pitchers injured right and left. Why? Because they're babied. You try to protect them and you're hurting them. Travis Denard signs a 1-year extension with the Braves. He was a possible trade candidate. The Pirates signed their top pick, Paul Skenes, if I'm saying that correctly, from Where'd they draft him from? I want to say LSU, but I don't think that. I think it is LSU. To a record $9.2 million bonus, according to multiple reports. Previous high went to Spencer Torkelson for the Tigers at 8.1. He's not necessarily worked out either, Torkelson. So we'll see how that works out for the Pirates. Pirates, by the way, can't get out of their own way. Major League Baseball's taking over the Diamondbacks broadcasting rights. As we talked, there was some issues because Diamond Sports Group, who was broadcasting the Diamondback games, went into bankruptcy, and really there was nobody to pick up the rights to these games. So, anyway, what do we got here? CA talking about our fantasy football. Just checked 8 confirmed. Can add to 14 if it falls too quickly. Won't finalize until you're ready to close for the draft. Good call. We'll see how it goes. I think 12 is probably going to be a challenge as it is. 4 more to go. If we get to 12, then I've got people interested. I'm going to have 2. I'm not going to go to 13. I don't think we're going to do, even numbers here. Anyway, let's get around the league a little bit. If we can, Major League Baseball standings. The East, the American League East, the Baltimore Orioles, as I said, playing tremendous baseball. 2 in a row, 8 of their last 10. Beat the Rays last night to take over sole possession of first place. The Rays had a huge lead here for a long while. And the O's have just continued to chip away. They will be active in the trade market next week. Cardinals, perfect trade partner with them. They need pitching. They've got 2 or 3 pitchers they'll be looking to trade the Cardinals, most likely. The Tigers, the White Sox, all good trade partners for the Orioles for starting pitchers. The Rays, I don't know what they're going to do. Probably look for starters, too. The injuries are catching up with them. They've lost 3/4 of their starting rotation with another guy also struggling along. So they've lost 5 in a row now, and it's not pretty for the Rays. The Blue Jays playing a little bit better, 7-3 in their last 10, 5.5 out of first, and they're tied for the first wild card spot. Red Sox playing pretty good baseball as well, 7-3 in their last 10, although they lost 2 in a row. They are now ahead of the Yankees by a game. And the Yankees, listen, it doesn't get worse than what the Yankees have done out west there. We're going to go to the center. Well, here's the thing. The Tigers are not keeping Eduardo Rodriguez because he's a free agent after the year. They're not going to be able to sign him. So they're going to trade him. And again, this meets my theory. Even if they wanted to retain him, and by the way, what does it matter? They're 8 games under 500. Just because they're 5 games out of the division, do I think that they should be out there trading 4 guys and be buyers? No, because even if they make the playoffs, they're not going anywhere. And they're not going to win a division anyway. So, again, my theory, if you didn't hear it earlier, and I've mentioned it several other times, if you've got guys and you're not in the race, and even if you're in the race sometimes, in this division, they could probably trade Rodriguez and still compete. And they get a couple of prospects, and they go sign him in the offseason if they really want him. I don't know why teams don't take this type of approach. And the Twins have played better, 5-5, but they 2 games over. The Guardians, up and down. Now they're 2 games under 500 again. The White Sox. Listen, I could say the White Sox aren't out of it at 9 games out, but you got to be realistic at some point and say, I told you the Yankees should be trading. They should be selling contracts and opening up some flexibility on that roster because this team, even though they're not out of the wild card race, only 4 games back, is going nowhere in a postseason the way it's currently situated. And they got the Royals and the A's chasing the 120 game loss record. On YouTube, there are no problems with buffering. Well, thank you, Dave. I appreciate you letting me know that. So the entire time you've been watching, it has settled down since about the, 10, 15-minute mark. When I first started is where I was having some issues with the feed that I could see. But I appreciate that information, Dave. I do like updates so I know how things are going and how the quality of the audio and the video is. I mean, you have to look at me and listen to me. That's bad enough. You shouldn't have any other quality issues besides that. Oh, God. So I don't know. I mean, the Twins will be buyers. The Guardians will probably be buyers. But these are teams that probably ought to sell. Because all these teams could compete for that division and make some trades to help them for the future. Just saying. Out west, a lot of rumors about the Rangers. The Rangers starting to, again, they overcame their speed bump. I'm sure that CA will be interested in this. Because he's got two of his and again, I'm not a big fan of having two favorite teams, but I know that CA does follow at least both the Rangers and the Astros. I believe he's a bigger Astros fan. I would hope. I'm not even sure he's a Rangers fan now that I think about it. He could be just following them and know about them. Rangers are ready to ship. Won 6 in a row, 7 of their last 10. Being mentioned as a potential suitor for Ohtani. Now, here's the thing. If I'm the Rangers, am I going to include a couple of starting pitchers from Omar White, Brock Porter, Jack Leader, Kumar Rocker, who they traded for from the Mets, I believe? He's on the IL with Tommy John surgery, but number one pick in the draft. You could add outfielders Evan Carter, Dustin Harris, second baseman Justin Foscue. These are people that are being bandied about as potentially 5 of these guys, 5 of the top 10 prospects in the Rangers organization for a 2-month rental for Ohtani. Now, the window sometimes for winning a World Series is small. I mean, do the Rangers have a real possibility of signing Ohtani? I'm not sure I give up all these prospects unless I have that real possibility. Or I'm a team that I've got the window's very small for me to win. I don't know that the Rangers window's that small. I think they're young enough that they're going to get better. I didn't think they'd be that good this year. I thought they were still a work in progress. But if they want to make a bold move, this is one they could make. And prospects are called prospects for a reason, because we don't know what they will be. Most of them don't turn out well. And again, from the Angels' perspective, I'm trading Ohtani. My playoff possibilities are not that great. They're not that great to make the playoffs, and they're not that great to even win a series or game, maybe, if I make it. If I want to keep Ohtani long term, trading him now does not hurt me at all. If that's my ultimate goal, he's going to hit the free agent market. He hits the open market. You may as well trade him and get something for him now. Rangers, I will continue to use that as an example. Should have done that with Martin Perez last year, and he's been a weak link in that rotation right now. Most teams nowadays don't even have a 3-hole hitters anymore. I agree. And we want to add 2 more teams, by the way. Going back to my Rob Manfred, getting an extension most likely in January from the owners because he keeps filling their pockets. He wants to expand, fill their pockets more with expansion money. But we don't have enough quality players to fill 30 teams. Look at the back end of every rotation and the front end of some of them, the rotations of every team in baseball. Look at the back end of the bullpen. Or the front end, whichever way you want to look at it. And look at the benches. Or even the lineups in a lot of cases. You can't support enough. And by the way, this also goes back to, I've left something out of his resume, or anti-resume, contracting 40 minor league teams. How about that, Rob? How smart was that? You want to expand to 2 more teams in the major leagues, but you just contracted 40 teams, which is going to hurt, and already is hurting, the overall depth of players because you don't have places for them to develop. Not to mention, you destroyed the economy of some of these smaller cities and towns that have, A and AA teams. We don't care about that. Who cares about Who cares about backyard America? Nobody cares. Not Rob Manfred. I digress. Won't happen, but getting rid of the DH would improve the game and expanding it. Listen, I don't disagree. I've never been a huge fan of the DH. I mean, it came into being when I was 13 years old. Ron Blomberg was the first DH in 1973. I always thought when the National League did not have the DH, the National League Baseball, even though I'm a Yankee fan and American League fan, I preferred watching National League Baseball because the strategy involved. You see double switches. You have to decide how long to leave a pitcher in, when to pinch hit for him. I do believe you're right. The overall quality of the lineups could possibly improve by getting rid of a batter. Makes too much sense. Because we don't do anything to hurt offense in baseball, CA. It's the it's the Sports Center mentality. It's the EA Sports video games mentality. More runs means better baseball. Nothing could be further from the truth. Drew's with us today. Hello, Drew. Unfortunately, the DH, I'm not making any debate, Drew, about whether it will go, because it won't. Again, as I just kind of stated, Major League Baseball is never going to do anything to inhibit offense. They're going to continue to tinker with the game to keep offense up. We artificially inflate stolen bases, batting average, and whatever you want by eliminating the shift and limiting the number of times you can throw to first base and enlarging the size of the bases. Thank you, Rob Manfred. Sorry, Drew. I went through a laundry list of reasons Rob Manfred should not be the commissioner anymore. But to reiterate, there's only one job requirement that needs to be fulfilled for him to keep his job, and that's filling the pockets of the owners with lots of money. The interest of the fans can take a back seat. Anyway, finishing up the West, the Rangers are rolling. If they give up 5 prospects for Ohtani, and God bless them for a 2-month rental, maybe it's worth it because, World Series chances are fickle. The Astros are staying alive, though, even with their struggling offense, injuries right and left. They're still only 4 games behind them. I think they're tied, if I'm not mistaken, for the first wild card spot. So the Astros continue to hang in there. The Angels probably will fool themselves into not trading Ohtani, which is stupid, by beating the Yankees 3 games straight and getting themselves back over 500 and quasi into the wild card race. The Mariners continue to flounder around 500. Now they've lost Kelenic, and that offense can't afford to lose anybody. But they'll probably be buyers. They could buy. They got a really good pitching staff in Seattle. And I can see them going out and getting some offense and making a run at this. Them I could see making a run. And the A's continue to flounder. As I said, grappling with the Royals. as they both race towards a record number of losses. 121 is the number. Video game industry hurt society long before the internet. That's a good point. It's a very good point. Sports Center hurt baseball, hurt sports. Everybody wants a highlight reel. Everybody stands at home plate so they want to be on Sports Center. Don't run to first base. Easy thing to do in sports is run. You need very little talent. You need a little coordination, not much talent. So run. But nobody runs. You can take Sports Center for that. And the video games, they show guys standing there hitting, whatever. And that's what kids do. So when kids start playing, that's what they do. And nobody chastises them. I digress. Surprised there haven't been more trades by now. I thought there'd be a few more as well. I think that what's happening, Drew, is there's so many teams that aren't sure what to do, right? As you look, I think the Angels are waiting to the last second to see what to do with Ohtani. I think the Mets are waiting to the last second to see what they want to do, buy or sell. The Mets could, I said this earlier, Drew, I think the Mets could sell and still have as good a chance as they have now. Problem is, two of the guys they'd probably want to sell now are going on the DL, or I don't know if Pham went on the DL. I know Marte did. Who else? The Red Sox are another team that's waited, I think, and probably rightfully so. The teams in the Central don't know what to do. Even the Tigers don't know what to do. As CA said earlier, they're only 5 games out of division lead. Should not keep them from trading. They should trade guys that are going to be free agents. You can always negotiate with them in the offseason. It sounds like a broken record. The Angels, the Mariners. The Cardinals even started to kind of play better baseball. Won 6 in a row now, 8 out of their last 10. They're probably waiting to the last second. The Cubs keep kind of hanging around the wild card race. The Reds probably want to make sure they're for real. They had a pretty bad spell, losing 7 out of 8, but they won their last 2. And then you got the Padres. I don't think the Padres know what to do. I think that slowed the market down. You got to have sellers, right? Right now we only got a couple of sellers. I never turned my music all the way down again. So there'll be probably by the time we speak next week, there should be a lot, unless there's going to be a flurry of activity next. What is it? A week from Tuesday. I don't know. In the National League, the Braves have had a bit of a hiccup, and they may look to make some moves. I don't know. I think there'll be small moves. They're pitching. They're going to get freed back. I think they may have already gotten freed back. They're going to get right back at some point. Their bullpen has come down with the injury bug, so that could be a possibility for them. They might get an outfielder maybe if I hear a lot that if the Red Sox do decide to make some moves, Duvall could be reunited with the Braves, where he had a great finish to his season 2 years ago. Will help them win a World Series and helped his pocketbook a lot. The Phillies hanging in there. Listen, nobody's catching the Braves, but it's going to be an interesting race for the wild card. The Marlins lost 6 in a row, still in the race, though. Maybe we're seeing the real Marlins. Can the Marlins hang in there? I don't know. The Mets, they'll win 3 in a row, and they kind of get themselves like, oh, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. And then they have a bad loss. They have decided, at least the New York papers are reporting today, that they have decided Pete Alonso will not be on the block, which was up for question. And then, of course, the Nationals, which, they'll probably have some kids that they move. Didn't really need the third wild card teams to muddy the waters at trade time. Listen, I can't disagree. Another anti-resume item for Mr. Manfred. Again, it's not all him. These things have to be negotiated, but he's the linchpin for a lot of these things. He's the guy who needs to stand up and say no when mediating between players and owners and negotiations and whatnot. He should be working in the best interest of the game and the fans, and he does not. He operates in the best interest of the owners, which is to put money in their pockets. And guess what that third wild card team does, Drew? More money. So, yes, it muddies the waters a lot. It gives teams false hope. It gives us better chances to have teams that don't win their divisions win World Series every year because a team can get hot for, 3 weeks in the postseason. Oh, what do you got here? All the contenders have bullpen issues, guaranteed. The Cards love Hicks' stock rise. That helps. Listen, their bullpen. There are some good bullpen guys available as well. You mentioned Hicks, Graveman for the White Sox will be available. Barlow for Kansas City. You already saw Chapman traded. There will be a ton of relievers traded because that's going to be the commodity that can be moved. Contenders all need, as CA says, bullpen help, and most of them need rotation help as well, which is why the White Sox and the Cardinals will be very busy trading starting pitching, among some others. In the Central, time is it 3:50 already? Oh my God, my rants early on ate up the show. Oh God, my Rob Manfred rant. We'll have another one Sunday, I'm sure. In the Central, the Brewers are suddenly 11 games over 500, 8-2 in their last 10, playing much better baseball since they had a hiccup about the same time the Reds got hot, which allowed the Reds to go into first place. The Reds are now 2.5 back, but still 6 games over. 3-7 their last 10, but they've won a couple in a row. I think this team's in this to stay. They could fall backwards and miss a wild card. Right now, I think they are tied, I believe, with Philadelphia. Well, depending how you look at it. I guess tied with Philadelphia. Marlins have one more win, but they also have one more loss. So they're probably in this. The Cubs aren't. Cubs ought to be trading Stroman. There's another starting pitching that'll be available. Hendricks possibly as well. They've got a couple arms in the bullpen. Bellinger, Happ could all be available, among some others. The Cardinals, again, I think the Cardinals are unsure what to do. They're still 9 games under 500 and 8 games behind the last wild card spot, muddying the waters, as Drew said. And the Pirates have definitely shown us why they're the Pirates. Glad they gave their fans a thrill here earlier on. But yeah, I talked about this. And again, you see this a lot. Probably more often than you ought to see it. It's very immature. Especially when you've got an offense that's struggling, you're technically a key part of that offense, or should be, if you were performing up to standards. You have a great at-bat against a really good pitcher in Duran. I think it was a 9-pitch at-bat, fouled off some tough fastballs from what the account that I read drew 100-plus miles an hour, 103, 102. And then he strikes out on a curveball, and he kicks a water cooler, and now he's out for God knows how long. And the Mariners were already lacking for bats, consistent bats, get worse off. So very immature. But is it surprising? No. But nobody holds these guys accountable either. Whether it's this, the maturity of learning the fundamentals of the game. So tired of watching the Yankees run the bases. When they do hit, they run the bases like they're the freaking Keystone Cops. Glaber runs the bases until he gets tagged. But don't call him out, Aaron. Just laugh. It's funny because the one time it works, he scores a run. It's funny. We've talked to Glaber about this. Is he listening? Out west. Dodgers, with all the injuries the Dodgers have, by the way, most likely landing spot if Ohtani gets traded, and again, if I'm the Angels, I trade Ohtani in a second. I could negotiate with him in the offseason. He's going to hit the open market. Trade him, get the prospects, move on. The Dodgers are the most likely landing spot. They've got a ton of prospects. Remember, too, you're getting 2 players for 1 here. You're getting a starting pitching and you're getting a really good hitter. I think the Dodgers, I've made this prediction here last week, I believe, that the Dodgers will get Ohtani at the deadline. Might be right to the last second. I don't know. But I think the Dodgers will get Ohtani. They're in a dogfight with the Diamondbacks. This is going to be a really good race. And the Giants, both 2 games behind the Dodgers. The Giants continue to surprise me. They have lost 2 in a row, but 7 of the last 10 they've won. Continue to surprise me. Gabe Kapler is a better manager than I gave him credit for, most likely. And the Diamondbacks are about a year ahead of where we thought they were. They aren't playing as good. Drew and I both talked about it in the preseason. Maybe next Friday I'll have you come on, Drew, and we'll talk about our predictions and where we are. If you want to come on next Friday with me, maybe Friday won't be. Yeah, maybe Friday will be a good day with the trade deadline. Maybe we'll go a little longer. I don't know. Or should we do a special show? I can't do it during the week. Let me think about it. Drew, give me your thoughts. Maybe just recap where our picks were. I think I resent you that email. And maybe we can talk about the trade deadline. Maybe we'll do that, Drew. Maybe I'll have you on next Friday. Anyway, the Padres are in 4th place here, 10 games behind the division leaders. They're not winning this division. Their only hope is a wild card spot, and they're 6 games back there. Manny Machado's playing well. Tatis is playing good. Nobody else is playing well, really. Snell's had a typical Snell outing the other day. I think he threw 103 pitches in 5 1/3 innings. He's been mentioned as a potential trade possibility for the Padres. And the Rockies, will they actually sell for a change? What are the Rockies? They never sell. Never sell. Oh, let me catch up here. Reds are kind of stuck with the early success ahead of schedule. I don't know if they're stuck. They want to keep the fever going in the area, but soon the Bengals will steal their thunder. Listen, yes, they'll steal their thunder, but the NFL, nobody cares about the preseason. So you got August. The only danger you have is in September. And if the Reds are in the race in September, there'll be some fever in Cincinnati, I'm sure. And I think they'll go out and make some trades for some starting pitching. I really do. Obtain, I think that's Ohtani. Angels don't want to trade within their market. Well, look at what's the difference, Drew? Trade him within the market. He's not signed. If he doesn't sign with the Dodgers, I'm not saying the Angels should not try to retain Ohtani. Now, if they've decided they don't want him back, maybe I don't try to trade him to the Dodgers. I'm saying they should be trading him where they can get the best return now and chase him in the free agent market. And by the way, they may have no choice. If he hits the open market, the Dodgers are still going to have, I think, probably the best path to him. But don't count out the Giants, as I said earlier. The Giants, don't forget, the Giants chased the Judge. They chased Correa with big contract offers last year. Ohtani's probably going to get more. But the Giants seem to have the wherewithal to do this. The Dodgers are the front runner due to him mentioning staying on the West Coast. I think Seattle's in play. I think the Dodgers are in play. I think San Francisco's in play. I really think it might be limited to that. I don't think the East Coast teams are going to get involved in the bidding here, which hurts the Angels because, the bigger the pool of teams in play, the better for them. Let's take a quick look at what we got going on this weekend and in the series, and then we'll wrap it up. And Drew, let me know if you think you want to come on next Friday, and we'll talk about our where our picks kind of stand as we hit the post All-Star break a little bit late, and we hit the trade deadline. We could talk about some of that maybe. We got the St. Louis Cardinals at Chicago, which normally is a big rivalry. It's being played right now. I don't know if there's a score or not, but who cares? Again, this might be the series that you need to pay to see or be paid to see. Baltimore, Tampa Bay continue their 4-game set. Big series. Tampa, big game for Tampa tonight. Brandish against Elfin. Colorado at Miami. Maybe Miami can get healthy. Lambert against Garrett. San Diego goes to Detroit. Seth Lugo, Met fans, will be pitching for the Padres tonight against Reese Olson. Kansas City at the Yankees. The Yankees really need to get it going. Clark Schmidt against Alex Marsh. San Francisco at Washington. Alex Wood and Jake Irvin. Arizona at Cincinnati. Tommy Henry and Ben Lively. The Mets go to Boston. The Mets need to have a good series in Boston here if they want to stay in this race. Senga, who is really turning into some kind of pitcher, against Cutter Crawford. What a great baseball name. Cutter Crawford. Philadelphia at Cleveland. Suarez against Williams. The Dodgers played Texas. This will be an interesting series. Where are you, Alan Perales? Soroka against Freddie Peralta. Oh, that's the wrong series. Sorry. Gonsolin against Haney. Below that is Atlanta at Milwaukee. Another nice series, I think. Soroka at Peralta. Chicago White Sox against the Twins. Lance Lynn, maybe his last start, who knows, in Chicago, as he is a prime candidate to be traded against Joe Ryan. Pittsburgh at the Angels. Ohtani does pitch tonight. Maybe his last start with the Angels. We'll see. Houston at the A's. Valdez against Sears. Toronto and Seattle. In kind of an important series, I would say. Kikuchi and Bryce Miller. What do you got here? We're going a little bit over. We'll go a couple more minutes. Texas or another for the rest of the season. Dodgers sign him long-term. Texas, again, I guess I'll ask this, CA, and I don't know if I'll get an answer in time, but if you're the Rangers, do you give up 5-year, 10 best prospects to get Ohtani for 2 months? That's kind of what you're going to have to be looking at. To me, that's how the Yankees and Mets are out because the Yankees are not talking about Peraza. They're not talking about Volpe. They're not talking about Dominguez. The Mets aren't talking about Alvarez or Viento probably. So and he doesn't want to play here. So you're not talking about those guys for a 2-month rental. Just not going to happen. Always willing to come on. Maybe wait till after the trade deadline. We sort that out. We can do that. Or we can have you the next 2 weeks. That's a good point. We could have you the next 2 weeks. I think maybe we'll plan on that, Drew. So I'll be in touch. Get yourself situated. And I know we have that sound issue. I've got my own issues with internet connection, which I had at the beginning of the show today. I have no idea why. Did a speed test just before it started. Anyway, thank you, Time Warner. So anyway, Drew Ehrlich will be with me next Friday and the following Friday. I think we'll post pre and post trade deadline show. We'll get into all the potential trades, and we'll also recap where our predictions are as we get ready to head down the stretch here sooner than later. So anyway, what do you got here, Drew, before I go? Rangers don't have high, I don't know. They got some really good pitching prospects, especially if they're willing to take a flyer on Rocker, who's on the DL with Tommy John surgery. I think the Rangers have got some good prospects. Don't forget all the guys that they got from the Yankees last year were pretty good. They're mid. Again, they weren't high prospects. But again, 2-month rental. It's going to be interesting to see the bidding for Ohtani. You're not going to get the same thing you got that the Washington got for Soto. You got 2 months, not 2 years. So it'll be very interesting. And we'll talk more about it on Sunday, Drew. Maybe we'll have some trades by then. Who knows? And we'll have some stuff to talk about there. So look for us. I'll be on in an hour, by the way, with Dan Harris, so with Let's Talk New York Sports. I'll be on Sunday with the Sunday Stream of Consciousness, which is probably my favorite show to do with all you guys, because I let you guys pretty much run this show, basically. So I get kicked off and take it back over. I see that my internet thing's up. I hope I'm all right. If I'm not buffering there, Drew. And we'll be back next week with college football huddle back. Great job. Great reception to our first show back from hiatus Wednesday night. We had a huge number of views, and I appreciate that from everybody. And we're back with this show next week at 3 o'clock next Friday with our own Drew. See you later, guys. Have a great Friday. Bye-bye.